Today's video is going to discuss Chapter 2.2, solving one-step equations. So I want you to think of an algebraic equation as a scale. Okay, and this is kind of like my scale, which means that if I were to put something on this side to make this side heavier, this side's going to pop up. Right? And then I would need to put the exact same weight that I just put on this side over to this side so it would be even again. And so the idea is this equal sign is right in the middle, and in order for us to keep an equation equal, whatever I do to the left side, I would have to do to the right side. Or whatever I do to the right side, I would have to do to the left side. Just remember that same operation has to be done to both sides. So let's start with a problem like this. C minus 22 equals 54. And so my goal is that I want to isolate the variable. And the variable is C. And I want to get C by itself. So in this particular problem, I am subtracting 22, or I have a negative 22. And so the opposite of negative 22 is positive 22. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 22 to this side. But remember, whatever I do to the left, I also have to do to the right. Remember, I can only add like terms, so you can't add the 22 here. Negative 22 plus 22 is 0, which means I'm left with C. C plus 0, and I'm not going to necessarily put in the plus 0 because I don't need to. So I got C equals, which is good. This canceled out. Now I got 54 plus 22, and 54 plus 22 is 76. So my answer is C equals 76. Now I can check my answer by taking this, and I can plug it back in here. This is why algebra is the greatest subject in the world. That's a fact, not an opinion. 76 minus 22 equals 56. Type that in my calculator, make sure it's right, and then I know I have the correct answer. All right, I'm going to have you practice one. J minus 12 equals negative 4. Please pause the video at this time to practice this problem. So in this particular problem, you have a negative 12, or subtracting 12, and the opposite of negative 12 is positive 12. So I'm going to add 12 to this side, and I'm going to add 12 to this side. Now negative 12 plus 12 means that this will cancel out, so I am left with just the j, which is what I wanted to do, was to isolate the j, isolate the variable. Negative 4 plus 12, if you remember from our last lesson, this is going to be positive 8. All right, well now let's talk about what happens when all the numbers are positive. So I got 63 plus m equals 79. And again, I want to isolate the m. I want to isolate the variable. So in order to get this by itself, I need to eliminate the 63, which is a positive number. So the opposite of 63 is negative 63. So I'm going to subtract 63 from this side. But then I have to make sure I remember to subtract 63 from this side. 63 minus 63 is 0. So those cancel out. I am left with m equals 79 minus 63. This is 16. Okay, I can take this 16, I can plug it back in here. 63 plus 16 is 79. Now let's have you practice one. 27 plus p equals 30. Please pause the video at this time to practice this problem. 27 is positive. I want to isolate the p, so I'm going to take the opposite of 27 and subtract 27 from both sides. This cancels out. I'm left with p equals 3. Again, check my answer. 27 plus 3 equals 30. All right, let's try one last one. 2/3 m equals 1/2. Now there are two ways to see this problem. One is I want to think about what this is. This is a multiplication problem. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I want to divide the number that's in front of the m. The number in front of the m is 2/3. If you think about what happens when I divide by 2/3, if you remember in the past what we've talked about, is that when you divide a fraction, really what happens is it turns to multiplication, you flip the fraction. So I'm really going to end up multiplying by 3/2. The other way to see it is it's the multiplicative inverse. And if I take the multiplicative inverse property and I multiply 3/2 times 2/3, this is going to leave me with 1m, which means I will have isolated the m. I'll isolate the variable. So either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3/2. We'll multiply 3/2 to this side. Whatever I do to the left side, I also have to do to the right side. I want you to notice that on this side I use parentheses to indicate multiplication. On this side I use the dot. It doesn't matter which one you use. If you'd rather put parentheses around this, you could do that too. 3/2 times 2/3 becomes 6/6, which is 1. So I got 1m. Hopefully you know our properties and you know that these are inverse, right? So this is a multiplicative inverse property. So this becomes m. And then 1/2 times 3/2. Remember, you multiply across, so 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 2 is 4. So I've got 3/4. Now if I want to check this, take 3/4, I put it back up here, and you end up getting 2/3 times 3/4, and 2/3 times 3/4 is 6/12, and 6/12 would reduce to 1/2. So I know that my answer is correct. All right, since I know you guys don't love fractions, I'll give you one to practice that doesn't have a fraction. However, it does have a negative number. Negative 3t equals 36. Please pause the video at this time to practice this problem. Since this is a multiplication problem, I want to do the opposite of multiplication, which is divide. So I'm going to divide the number that's in front of the t. Keep in mind it is not 3 that's in front of the t. It is a negative 3. So I'm going to divide negative 3 to both sides. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1, so this becomes 1t, which is good. I want to isolate my variable. 36 divided by negative 3, this is negative 12. I can check my answer by putting a negative 12 in there, and I got negative 3 times negative 12. Negative times negative is positive, so I end up with 36. So I know my answer is correct. All right, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.